So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and it seems like I'm never off my chair. To be honest with you, never mind off YouTube. It seems like I'm never off this chair because transfer news just keeps on coming. And as I say, it is my favorite time of the year, transfer time, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm here, guys, to talk to you about today's newest rumor. Kind of started to surface yesterday, but my God, has it gathered pace since yesterday. And that is that DiegoCarlos from Sevilla is an Aston Villa target, and it seems to be very high up on their list of targets. You can see running down at the bottom of the screen there that there's a small bit of a, I suppose it's a timeline of events of what's happened today. So Marca reported this morning that Villa and Sevilla were already in negotiations for the transfer of DiegoCarlos. That things were moving quickly, and this was something that was amiable to all three parties. Then Estadio came out and said that he was valued at 50 million euros, an amount that Aston Villa were willing to reach if bonuses and as such were included. I think that's it's a massive number for him. And then it's come out here that Fabrizio Romano has mentioned that Aston Villa are now progressing in talks with Sevilla for DiegoCarlos. Negotiations are ongoing with fresh proposals around 31 million euros to be discussed. So that is that number is still quite a big number, but it just shows that we mean business this transfer window. And that DiegoCarlos, it seems now it's being reported in very, very reputable sources, as I say, Marca Estadio and Fabrizio Romano, all reporting this. So there is legs in this, and I think that this is something that we will see to rumble on over the next 24 or 48 hours. Whether it comes to fruition or not, who knows? But it will rumble on. There was also another report that I read today. I think it was in the Estadio. It was in a Estadio that said that Villa are looking to get this done in the next few days, if not weeks, but it will not last past June, past the end of June. So it was a nice long runway that they gave themselves, but still, it was nice to know that we're looking to get our transfer business done early. And it does fit in what Steven Gerrard said, that things have been progressing, things have been rolling, things have been moving behind the scenes. They've been making their assertions on players that they have already. They've been making their assertions on players that they would like to see. And it looks like Aston Villa are ready to pounce, get their business done early in this transfer window. And that's not a bad thing. Before we get on to DiegoCarlos, that's not a bad thing, because yesterday we had the news that Spurs had an injection of 150 million into their coffers, specifically to entice Conte to stay with transfers. Want to get our business done before that money starts being splashed around. The sale of Chelsea is on the horizon. I could imagine that the new owners are going to come in and going to give Thomas Tuchel a ball of money that he's going to want to spend. Want to get our transfer business done before that as well. Both of those teams need centre halves, or will be in the market for top class centre halves. Whether it's this gentleman or any other gentleman that we're looking at, I don't know. So from that point of view, I'm really delighted that Aston Villa are getting their transfer business, or seem to be in full speed ahead, get their business done before everybody breaks up and goes on holidays, and not delay things and give other teams a march as they try and get their finances ready. So really, really grown up kind of thinking, I think, from Aston Villa, and something that I am delighted to see. Whoa, wait a minute. Is there something breaking? Is this done? Rob Henry, thanks very much. What's happening? The deal is in the bag. We didn't dilly-dally. Is something broken since I've come on? What? Oh, well. We've signed him. Permanent deal from Sevilla. Brazilian centre-back has accepted the contract today. Club statement confirms proposal has been accepted and deal sealed. 26 million to make Sevilla defender DiegoCarlos their third side. 26 million! That's for nothing in the greater scheme of things. Nothing. Considering they were looking at, he had a 65 million buyout clause apparently, and they were looking for 50, and we talked them down to 26. Man, I need to learn Johan Lange's mind trick. His Jedi mind trick. See, I should have had the comments open earlier. Because there was me going along my little piece, my little preamble. You guys already knew. This is great news. I'm delighted I left it. I'm delighted I was late for the stream until 5 p.m. with this news. But Rob, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And to everybody else that says it's just been announced, I really appreciate that as well. That's interesting. And yes, sorry, Ronan, I didn't get the memo. I think the club were waiting for me to announce it at 5 p.m. That's what the holdup was. Actually, can we go back to the start so I can play that off that I knew all the time, and that's why I held off until 5 p.m. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So this is a really interesting one. Nicholas Charles Bamford says that that's the same price as Mings, £26 million, same price as Mings. Yeah, 29-year-old defender. You know, he's no spring chicken. Like, well, I'm 37. I can't be calling 29-year-olds old and out to pasture. But you know, I think it's commensurate to his skill level and to his age as well. But that's fantastic. You know, really, really good. And we are not messing around here. Yeah, exactly. Ronan says he's been unveiled in my house. Bring him out. Yeah, if you'd just like to come into shot here, Diego, that would be fantastic. That'd be great. Anyway, does anyone want to see what my feelings are on him? I wish I knew how to make something flash up on the screen to say he's signed here, because that would be fantastic if it happened. And if you think I'm not going to clip out my reaction to finding out that he signed, you have another thing coming. So anyway, let's take a little look. I'm going to stop the banner scrolling at the bottom of the screen here. So let's take a little look at DiegoCarlos here. Played 220 games at centre half. He is an out-and-out born-bred centre half. That's all he's played. Only played centre half. We can see there a couple of notes on him. He's a late bloomer. He's a very, very good passer. He's confident, good passer. And he's gotten better when he stepped up in competition, if that makes sense. You know, he's been able to step up to the level that he's playing at, for sure. He does rely an awful lot on intuition for better or worse. And what I mean by that is that he's strong, physical, and a pacey player that you know, that just jumps off the screen when you watch him. I've put in here that he does make errors. And the reason that I've said that is that it's not as if he's completely error prone. But when you look in 2019, 2020, I actually went back and I looked at the game against Wolves and the game against Man United in the quarterfinal and semi-final of the Europa League, when they went on to win it in 19-20. And I watched both of those games, and he gave away a penalty. He was giving away penalties left, right, and center in those games. And you could see that the reason he did it was because he was compensating for maybe being caught a small little bit. Now, that can happen to anybody. It's just I happened to watch a couple of games, and I thought that there were two errors that could have cost him. When you look at his statistics over the course of his, and I don't have it in here, but when you look at the statistics over the course of last year and the year before, the actual amount of errors that lead to goals or lead to shot-creating actions or lead to any of those goal-creating actions are very, very small. So it doesn't tend, like, he's not a serial error maker. Don't get me wrong here with this one, but I just thought that, you know, if he finds himself out of position, it was interesting. It was against two Premier League teams, and he gave away penalties. For me, I just thought that it was a small bit of thing worth mentioning, because we're going to be showing him up against players that are in this team. And as we know, we do have some players that do make errors in this team as it is. So let's take a look at some of his other attributes. Look, I suppose we're going to start with the passing attributes at the moment, and we work our way backwards, because when I speak about the defensive statistics, I want to obviously bring into context the fact that it is La Liga, and we do tend to see some intricacies, or not intricacies, what's the word I'm looking for, idiosyncrasies between leagues when we do look at defensive statistics. Looking at his passing stats, he's going to be able to pass out of defense. It's clear as day here. He's been tasked with making a lot of passes in Lopetegui's system. He's a powerful type center half. You know, he's not in position in possession. He's comfortable with the ball. You know, Sevilla play a possession-based system. They play out from the back. He's a safe passer, if that makes sense. I think he's a safe passer, but that's fine with me. I don't mind whether, you know, if he passes it short, mid, or long, as long as he does the right thing and makes the right pass at the same time. But he's a safe passer. He's an accurate passer as well, and he's not going to rely just on getting it to that pivot in front of him. And from the games that I saw, he was very adept at switching play. So he contrary to belief, a lot of times he starts on the left of a back two, left centre half, should I say, and Koundé plays at as right centre half. But he's interchangeable. He has played at right centre half as well. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, number one, he's right-footed, but second of all, he's very adept at playing kind of at switching the play. And I think he'll fit into our system an awful lot from the point of view that our fullbacks like to get high. You can watch some of his footage, and Marcus Acuna, the left back, is up around the center, up past the halfway line, or up on the halfway line, and he's a bit more withdrawn. He might be back in just at the end of his defensive third, and he'll switch the play directly out these fullbacks, and that's really interesting to me. I read a great article as well that they confirmed it on what's the website that it was on? breakingthelines.com. You'll see that. And read an article there, and it confirmed it. And it actually showed a very similar pass to what I saw him do as well. So he switches the play to his fullbacks. What do we like to do? We like to get our fullbacks involved high up the field. For me, that's a glaring reason, and it's a glaring kind of telltale sign as to why Steven Gerrard might have brought him in. Because to me, that's really that's going to be something invaluable. It means we don't have to go long. That we're comfortable with passing from defense. We will have that metronome in middle of midfield in Boubacar Kamara. Links with Bissouma as well, who's very good at being that pivot player. So what we might have for the first time in a long time is an opportunity to start attacks from various parts of the field, from various parts of defense, whether it be central defense, whether it be getting it out quickly to our wings, or maybe playing it through the lines to our pivot players in midfield to try and play those triangles that we were playing at the start of Gerrard's tenure here. We can see there that he's got a very good pass completion rate, 88.6% pass completion rate over the course of the last 365 days. Progressive passes, yeah, they're not massive, but he does pass it for a big distance. So he's accurate in comparison to a lot of other centre halves with his long passing, which is great to see. Absolutely great to see. Looking at his defensive abilities as well, doesn't tackle that much, but when he tackles, he wins the ball at a decent clip. 60, he's in the top third percentile, should I say, or top third of centre halves in Europe's top 5 leagues, which is good to see. Rarely gets dribbled past, and when we look at this in a moment, that is a feature of our 2 incumbent centre halves, and it's something I think that DiegoCarlos can come into the team and can fit into the way that we play at the moment, except maybe bring that passing impetus towards our backline so that we're not under as much pressure lumping the ball forward. Doesn't pressure an awful lot, but once again, I've spoken about this before. Centre halves really shouldn't pressure if we've got a good enough midfield, and in La Liga they're not going to pressure because it's more of a faster paced league. From the point of view, you're going to have people running at you more, and we can see that with regards to the dribble pass statistics. He's tackling people that are dribbling the ball, should I say, and he doesn't get dribble past that often. He's pressure when he pressures people. He's successful 41% of the time. He doesn't pressure people that much, but that puts him up in the top 9% of all centre halves in Europe, which is good to see. So his pressure success rate is quite good. You look at these blocks and these interceptions. Once again, La Liga ain't the league if you're going to be looking for people who are going to have massive amounts of blocks, massive interceptions, because it's not a pinball wizard league. And what I mean by that is a lot of our blocks and interceptions that come from our centre halves, or specifically our blocks, come because we invite pressure on, and sometimes there's a cross from out wide. It skews around in the middle of the goals, and Mings gets a block on it from a shot. La Liga is a different beast, and it's got a different cultural aspect to it from that point of view. So his passes, his blocks, his passes, blocks, his interceptions, things like that, they are a bit lower. His aerial success duels are in and around what we have from our guys at the moment, and we will see that as well. And he commits fouls at the rate of one per game. So much in all, he's a very balanced and very rounded player, to be honest, from what I've seen, and the statistics bear that out as well. One thing I will say here is that Tim Vickery. Who's Phil Vickery? Can't remember who he is. Phil Vickery played with Middlesbrough, I think. Tim Vickery has spoken about Diego Costa previously, and he has mentioned that he does have those errors in him. It does have an error with him at times, that he can be not the most aesthetically pleasing defender when he gets the ball or when he's trying to defend. And I think that's okay. But Tim Vickery, I said it wrong again. He did say that a scout came to him, a Spanish scout, came and mentioned to him and said, "You got to look at this guy. He's the best Brazilian centre half in Spain, or he's the one of the best centre halves in Spain." And when Tim Vickery looked at him, he said that he's got an awful lot of good things going for him, but at the same time, that he does do some wild things. Now, that was some time ago. That was maybe 2 years ago. So over time, I suppose culturally that will be coached out of him, and we will see the time proof is in the pudding when he does come to the Premier League. But the plus points are so far outweighing the negatives in that I'm not even going to mention it anymore towards the rest of this podcast. Just trying to be honest from what I've seen, read, heard, and observed from watching DiegoCarlos and listening to what people say when they are speaking about DiegoCarlos. So let's take a look at him in comparison to other players that we have. So Tyrone Mings, let's take a look at him here. So what we can see is it stands to reason when I said passes blocked and blocks and things like that they are and interceptions and all that jazz, that there's more of those going in the Premier League than do in La Liga. And when we look at these tackle statistics, that's really what I'm more interested in. And he's performing at a higher rate than Tyrone Mings in that area as well. Also, the dribblers tackled too. I did put this together hastily, so if some of the color coding is missing, I do apologize. We can see his passing statistics far outweigh Tyrone Mings. Also, when we look at Ezri Konsa, same thing rings true. Konsa has more passes blocked, more interceptions, and they come in around the same level for the amount of blocks they make. But once again, pressure success rates, amount of tackles made, percentage of dribblers tackled, they're all higher from DiegoCarlos. So he does some similar things to the incumbents that we have. He does them at a higher level where we want them to do it, should I say. So he could be a good complement to either one of these two gentlemen, whether it be Konsa or whether it be Mings. And once again, the passing is just night and day when you look at the two centre halves we have. Our two centre halves weren't tasked with being ball playing centre halves. That has to be mentioned. But when they were tasked with being ball playing centre halves, they didn't, they didn't pass the muster where like somebody like DiegoCarlos would do. I also have put him up against somebody here like Maxence Lacroix. So I have put his statistics up there, and I didn't color code these, so I do apologize. But what we can see here is that it was me trying to figure out before he was signed. The whole premise of this podcast was trying to figure out what type of a centre half we wanted, and that's been blown out of the water now, thanks to Fabrizio and thanks to all the wonderful reporters that are there. So I think I'm going to just mosey on past these next two slides between Maxence Lacroix and James Tarkowski, and I can come back to them and I can reuse them again because they're kind of null and void now, because this was the point of the podcast where I was going to talk about what type of player the centre half do Aston Villa want, and I had this lovely hypothesis going about where they wanted a yin and yang at centre half, one that could be a stopper, one that could play a ball. And it's now all blown out of the water now because we've signed DiegoCarlos. And Jesus, fantastic news, don't get me wrong. But doesn't anybody ever think of my podcast? Do they ever think of it before they break this news? So I'm going to just go on past James Tarkowski. Doesn't matter. They can be done for another day. Let's look at some of his advanced defensive statistics and his advanced passing statistics as well. Tackles amongst all different areas of the field, very, very similar. 102, 0.45, 0.5. So, realistically, when we're looking there, he comes in at the same level amongst his peers in the top 5 leagues as well, with tackles across all those different levels of the field. Pressures, as I say, once again, La Liga ain't a pressure league. You'll see that he has higher pressures in the attacking third. He just gets active when he's coming back from corners. I've seen that with my own 2 eyes. You can see him. He is not somebody who's going to plod back. He's going to get active. He's going to try and pressure people on the retreat. He's also going to try and tackle people on the retreat. That's why you can see those numbers there. And his ball recoveries come smack bang in the middle of the park at 8.87 as well. And once again, I'll be hoping my midfielders will be recovering the ball more than my defenders. So I want my defenders to tackle, I want my midfielders to recover the ball, and I don't want my defenders to be overworked at any stage of the game. When we look at his pass completion statistics, 88.6% pass completion, ranges across the different levels of the different transition areas of short completions of 94.6, mid completions 95.5, and long pass completions is 73.1%, with 64.49 live ball passes per game. So basically, he's doing all of his passing outside of free kicks. He doesn't take them, essentially. So it's going to be all 64.49 as well. It's a really interesting one. As I say, it's a really interesting signing. Look, he's somebody that Newcastle wanted. He's somebody that West Ham wanted. He was wanted by a lot of Premier League teams. He was wanted by teams outside of Spain as well. Sevilla are in a bit of financial difficulty. So for us to swoop in, get this done early, 26 million, essentially pull the wool over a lot of teams' eyes, this is going to sting. This is going to sting other teams that aren't Aston Villa, because they would have thought that they would have had a chance at maybe negotiating this down a small bit more, because they are in a bit of financial difficulty. We got in here and we got this done, as I mentioned before, Chelsea get their boodle of cash, their 220 million or whatever is rumored that they're going to be spending in the transfer market. They sign Quende. We don't get DiegoCarlos for 26 million. I can guarantee you that. The other guy is looking to go for 60 million. This guy goes for 29. We get our business done early, and now we can let everybody else fight it out for the other guy, for Quende. And I think that's smart business by Aston Villa. I think it's really, really smart business by Aston Villa, because this is a guy that's do we need another centre half. I don't know what. I haven't even had time to sit down and think where we go with regards to signing him. That will be for another podcast. I want Paddy there so that as he talks, I can gather my thoughts. He's just signed. I haven't even thought about who he replaces, where he fits in, anything like that. This podcast was more about what kind of a defender are we going for. And look, it's just been shown, it's been borne out that DiegoCarlos is the man that we're looking for. We're obviously looking for someone who can pass the ball more. Who he replaces, I don't know, but I do know he does have versatility of playing both right-sided centre half and left-sided centre half as well, which is a real positive and plus point. I'm going to go to the comments, vast and brilliant as they are. And there's probably no way I'm going to get to half enough of them. But by God, am I delighted I delayed this until 5 p.m. The reason why I delayed it until 5 p.m. is because I've got a nice little interesting podcast coming up, and I wanted to record it with some wonderful people previously at 4:30 as well. So and that was the time that they could do it. So keep your ears peeled for that. It's a current Aston Villa player that I was talking about and getting a lowdown on. So really, really interesting and nice podcast. So just some scurrilous advertising of our own pod. There's 250 people here at the moment. I am going to take this time, guys. If you could please press the thumbs up, like this podcast, like this on YouTube. If you aren't already subscribed to the podcast, please, I implore you to please subscribe to it. This might be I think it could be 20 days in a row nearly that I'm podcasting. Someone will keep me honest. Feels like it's that long anyway. I just love doing them. There's going to be tons and tons more of these. And you will hear a lot more ramblings from me over the course of the transfer window. So really appreciate everything you already do. If you aren't subscribed, please do. If you could give us a thumbs up, I'd really, really love it. Also, audio podcast. Don't forget the audio podcast. I'm going to be ramping up efforts on that as well over the course of the off season. We're not going anywhere yet, lads. We're not going anywhere yet. Damien Leach says we're just waiting on Neil to read the comments. Yeah, because you were all talking amongst yourselves the fact that he had signed, and I was the only one that was oblivious. I can see all the messages there saying, read the comments. That's fantastic. And I do need to change my title as well. So where are we there? I'm just going to pick one there at random to see where we are. Rob Henry says a right footer alongside Mings. I think that's probably where we're looking at. Konsa is going to be off for the whole off season. He's going to be getting his going through rehabilitation. Maybe we don't expect him to hit the ground running when he comes back. Callum Chambers, I think it's fair enough to say, good and all as he's been for us, will be that stand-in player for us. I don't think he's going to be a standout player, more so a stand-in player. And DiegoCarlos now comes in, and I would imagine he's going to take up that right-sided spot. But who knows? Anything could happen. Like the speed Aston Villa are doing transfers at, we could be here in a week's time saying, "Oh my God, I wish Tyrone Mings all the best at Roma." Some team, who knows? You could like I don't know what's going to happen with Aston Villa, and this actually throws everything up in the air even more than it did before. And so Owen asked, does he play on the left side of centre back? He's played both left and right side, of the centre back position, which is quite interesting as well. Do I think Tarkowski is still on the radar now that it's confirmed? I don't think you offer somebody 120 grand a week without being willing to revisit that, even if you sign someone else. Now, if Tarkowski does sign as well, I think we have to have serious conversations about the centre halves that we currently have and whether they will be here next season. So that's why I'm kind of keeping my powder dry and making any massive predictions on what DiegoCarlos will do or where he'll line up or what he'll look like within this team. But I think we've spent 26 million on a player and he's your player that you've brought in as a manager. You're going to want to start him day one, but where he starts, I don't know. But it's an interesting one. Really, really interesting one. Carol O'Neill says, hope we get Bassey now too. Seems to be still full systems go on Calvin Bassey. Did a podcast on him last night. You can go back and find it on our channel. If you're not already subscribed, please do. But it was really interesting view of Calvin Bassey and what he brings to the team or what he potentially could. I think he's a left back, not a centre half. I think he'll be a left back for Villa. And by all accounts, he wants to play left back himself as opposed to centre half. So really interesting player. Where else are we here? He's a rugby player, is he? This is an interesting one here. Rex Gold says, reminds me of a Pepe type. Maybe we need that dirty, nasty influence in our team. I've always said that we're a small bit too nice. I've said it since we came back into the Premier League. We're a bit nice. No, we're a bit of a nice team. Nice guys finish last. I should know. But it's it could be something that we might be bringing in that kind of a bit more of a pit bull mentality into the team, potentially. Who knows? But an interesting comment all the same, for sure. But Western Wood makes the same makes a great point here. House would most certainly be moved on, and Konza is injured for a while, and we need a central defender. Absolutely, I think that's it. Like, much and all as my love affair with Courtney House has happened and has been vast and varied over the course of the last 3 years, I do think that this is the last we will see of him. I don't think we will see him in a Villa shirt again. Rumour had it that he was going on loan to Watford in January. He signed a new deal to protect his value to Aston Villa, and whether he goes out on loan again. Goes out on loan this season or not, or whether we sell him, I suppose, is to be seen. But he's been injured quite a lot this season, and I think that he will most likely move on in the off season. And this probably expedites that, if I was to be really, really honest about the whole situation. Where else are we? Suarez dropped a Villa hint yesterday. I'll have to go back and I'll have to look for that. Remember when I said maybe my whole "we're too nice" a team is definitely, we're going a full 180 on that and bringing in the likes of DiegoCarlos and Luis Suarez. One thing I didn't mention about DiegoCarlos is he's never injured. Very rarely injured. I think over his career he's only been injured twice, and they've been small injuries and not been big injuries, but they've only been injured. He's only been injured twice. So that is something to bear in mind. Yeah, so look, guys, I suppose really we're just kind of reacting to it in real time here. It's great that we've been able to do the podcast. It's great to be able to chat about this, and it's great that you guys were able to see my reaction when I was the last person in the room to know that he had just signed for Aston Villa. But as I say, it's a really, really interesting signing. We'll see what else Aston Villa have in store, but I need to go catch my breath and try and make sense of all of this, and I'm sure we'll be back later on in the week or well, it's late in the week now, maybe over the weekend, with some more transfer news as it breaks. Thank you so much to everybody who's been watching this. Thanks so much to everybody who contributes to the podcast with your comments, with your likes and everything like that. I really, really appreciate it. If you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, I would be forever in your debt. And if you could leave a thumbs up on this, I would also really appreciate it. Audio podcast, as I say as well, please subscribe to it. You don't have to listen to the audio podcast on YouTube, but I just don't want you to miss out when we do an audio podcast. And if you could subscribe, it would be fantastic. So Diego Carlos is an Aston Villa player. Really great news, super to see. And here's to more signings as they come down the pipe over the next few weeks and months before the start of the next season. Thanks very much, everybody. I need to go and get a glass of water, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.